Imagine, just for a second, that a close friend or a colleague simply vanishes.
Right, like someone you literally just grabbed coffee with last week.
Exactly. But they don't just physically disappear. They vanish from the memories of every single person on Earth.
Oh,
Like the
wow.
photos on your phone are just gone. The employment records are completely wiped.
And their apartment is occupied by some stranger who supposedly lived there for a decade.
Right. Every trace of their existence just evaporates. And it leaves you, and only you, as the sole isolated keeper of their entire life.
I mean, that is a concept that hits on a very primal fear,
Huh.
total, absolute isolation.
It really is.
Because when you are the only person who remembers a truth, well, to the rest of the world, you aren't a witness. You're just a person losing their grip on reality.
And that terrifying premise is basically the jumping off point for our deep dive today. Welcome, everyone. I'm your host, and I'm sitting here with our resident expert to get into this.
Hey there, I am so excited for this one.
Me too. So today we're exploring the excerpts, the extensive background lore, and the really deep conceptual frameworks of a frankly captivating novel called The Distance Keeper by Max and Claude.
It is such a brilliant piece of world building.
It really is. And our mission for this deep dive is to explore the profound mechanics of memory, the chilling concept of engineered historical absence, and the radical power of simply refusing to forget.
Yeah, and what makes the world this novel builds so compelling is that it treats memory not as this like fleeting emotional state or neurological quirk.
Right.
It treats it as a literal physical structure, like it's a foundational force of the universe.
And we explore this physical reality of memory through a character named Noor. She operates in this space called the distance, which is described as a load-bearing architecture where the forgotten exist.
Yeah, Noor is a keeper of this distance.
So to really understand the stakes here, we have to look at the rules Noor operates under, right? Her job is to maintain the boundary between the active memory of the living world and everyone it has forgotten.
Exactly. But the text makes a fundamental structural distinction right in front. There's a difference between the properly dead and the forgotten.
Right, the properly dead are those who have passed away, but they're still actively held in the memory of the living.
Yes. Because they're anchored by that memory, they get to rest peacefully.
So as long as someone is telling stories about their late grandfather, he is properly dead. He has an anchor.
Precisely. But the forgotten are entirely different. These are individuals from whom human memory has fully and, naturally withdrawn over generations.
They just fade out.
Yeah. And they don't suffer in this state. They exist in absolute structural neutrality. It's just a quiet nothingness.
And Noor's function is to basically tend to this quiet. She makes sure that when a life naturally fades from collective memory, it stays faded.
Which has a huge philosophical implication, if you think about it. Living world would be completely psychologically crushed if it had to carry the active weight of billions of accumulated historical consciousnesses.
Oh, for sure. So forgetting is actually framed as a necessary biological mercy.
It is. It's a healthy system.
But part of her job involves monitoring what the authors call pre-echoes. And I found this concept entirely creepy, but also brilliantly grounded.
Oh, the pre-echoes are fascinating.
Right. These are the faint cellular resonances of forgotten ancestors that kind of bubble up in living people. Like, think about your own life for a second. Maybe you have a sudden unexplained fear of a specific quality of afternoon light.
Or, a strange, deep inclination toward a piece of music you've never actually heard.
Exactly. In this universe, Noor is making sure these biological residues stay as faint pre-echoes. They can't crystallize back into actual memories.
So portrays forgetting as this beautifully organic, self-regulating system until, of course, the system breaks.
Right. One day, Noor detects a massive anomaly. She feels a literal physical pressure in the distance.
Someone is actively pushing back toward the living world with intent.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because based on the rules we just established, that should be structurally impossible. Yeah. The truly forgotten have no anchor.
Right. They have no will to push because there is no them left to do the pushing.
So if someone is pushing, it means their forgetting wasn't natural.
It was applied. It was a deliberate, artificial extraction. And most importantly, it was incomplete.
So if natural forgetting is like an old digital file that slowly degrades and corrupts over decades until it's just digital dust.
Yeah.
This applied forgetting is like someone aggressively wiping a hard drive to hide a massive corporate crime. But they messed up.
They accidentally left a single active shortcut firing on the desktop.
Exactly. And that shortcut just keeps pinging the main server over and over again.
That visual of a firing shortcut is such a great way to think about it. And what's really fascinating here is the physical evidence of that aggressive wipe. Noor can actually read the scar of the erasure. Yeah, she can't see the person's identity, but she can see the geometry of their removal. She observes that this person was deeply integrated into a community connected to thousands of people.
And they were just surgically extracted.
Exactly. Extracted by an entity with vast resources and highly specialized techniques.
Which completely shatters Noor's professional neutrality. I mean, she realizes that the distance, this sacred, neutral space she's tended for millennia, is being weaponized.
It proves that memory isn't just an abstract thought, it is a structural tether.
And someone out there in the living world is still holding the other end of that tether, giving the erased person the leverage to push back.
And this anomaly forces Noor to abandon her post. She crosses over into the living world to find the person holding that thread, and she tracks the tension of that tether directly to Yara Nazemi.
Yes, Yara. She's a 61-year-old urban planner who has been holding an impossible secret for 23 years. She is the anomaly.
She is the one living person on Earth who remembers a man named Saba Moradi.
And Saba is the man pushing against the distance.
Right. Through Yara's memories, we learn that 23 years ago, Saba was a brilliant archivist. He had this really unique gift for noticing negative space in historical records.
Which is so cool. He worked for a deeply respected 150-year-old philanthropic foundation. But his genius for spotting what wasn't there led him to a terrifying discovery.
Yeah, this foundation wasn't preserving history, it was systematically engineering gaps in it.
He realized the foundation was managing institutional memory at a global scale. If a person or like a political event became inconvenient to the foundation's powerful clients, the foundation ensured they were removed from the record entirely.
And Saba spent years quietly documenting this pattern. He eventually found 7 specific cases of people being structurally removed, and then, inevitably, he became the 8th.
But before he was taken, he gave a copy of his evidence to Yara, the person he trusted most. And the text gives us this beautiful detail about Saba's personality that really explains his motivation.
Oh, the bread baking.
Yes. He used to bake bread from scratch every Sunday, adhering to a strict personal philosophy that bread should be difficult.
I love that detail.
Right. And as someone who has produced multiple brick-like loaves of sourdough, I honestly feel targeted by that philosophy.
It's a tough hobby, but there's a deeper meaning there, isn't there?
Absolutely.
The idea that bread should be difficult means that if something fundamental is too easy to consume, it hasn't been properly considered. Like, honest things require full, laborious effort.
And he applied this to history.
Exactly. History should be difficult. It should be full of contradictions and uncomfortable truths. When he saw the foundation making history perfectly smooth and easy for their clients, he knew it was a lie.
He couldn't ignore the gaps because he believed the historical record required honest effort.
And Yara loved him for that integrity. That love is really the only reason she was able to bear the crushing psychological weight of being his sole rememberer for over 2 decades.
But hang on, let me make sure I'm grasping the physics of this universe. We have an ancient, hyper-resourced shadow organization capable of literally deleting human beings from global consciousness. Why on earth didn't they just wipe Yara's mind too? They must have known she was connected to him.
It's a crucial mechanical distinction. To understand why Yara survived, we have to look at how the erasure technique actually functions.
Okay.
The Foundation's weapon relies on the natural friction or lack thereof in human memory. It basically co-opts our brain's inherent biological desire to let things go and lighten our cognitive load.
So it uses our own laziness against us.
Basically. And 8 years prior to our story, the Foundation actually did try to erase Yara.
Wait, so how does a 61-year-old urban planner fight off a metaphysical memory wipe? Did she just brute force her way through the erasure?
Essentially, yes. When the erasure team targeted her, she felt a sudden, aggressive blurring in her mind. This intense interference, like someone violently reaching into her consciousness to steal a core concept.
And what did she do?
Her defense was immediate and physical. She went home, pulled out Saba's documentation, read it start to finish, and said his name aloud 50 times in her empty apartment.
Wow, so she anchored him. If the erasure requires a drifting, fading memory to latch onto, Yara did the exact opposite. She made the memory as heavy and present as possible.
The erasure technique failed because it had no ambient drift to attach to. Yara fought back with active choice. She refused to let the memory be light.
It's a profound commentary on refusal as a defense mechanism against, well, institutional gaslighting.
Totally.
But brute force survival, on a personal level, doesn't dismantle the machine that fired the weapon. To understand how to break the machine, you have to look at the engineers who built it, which introduces us to Ingrid Vas.
Right, Ingrid. She's a former archivist who worked for the Foundation and fled 14 years ago. She is the whistleblower of this narrative.
And after escaping, she published a heavily coded theoretical paper on a concept she termed structured omission.
Structured omission.
It sounds so incredibly bureaucratic and sterile, almost like a tax return.
Yeah, that sterility is the hallmark of institutional evil. Ingrid explains that the Foundation doesn't just run around burning documents. Burning a document leaves a visible absence.
Right, a pile of ashes that people can point to and say, hey, something was here.
Exactly. Instead, they shape accession practices. They manipulate the very intake valves of history to ensure that certain truths never enter the archive to begin with.
They create an official history that is perfectly internally consistent, but entirely curated.
And for the really sensitive cases like Saba or the 7 people he discovered, they escalate beyond just rejecting paperwork. They use a specialized division known internally as the Clearance Service, executed by a group called the Architects of Absence.
The term clearance service treats the erasure of a human being like managing a minor logistical overflow in a warehouse. It is bone-chillingly banal.
It really is.
But here's where it gets really interesting, though. Saba anticipated the sophistication of this clearance service. When he hid his 63 pages of system-shattering evidence, he didn't put it on a USB drive or a hackable cloud server.
No, he didn't.
He left it on physical paper, locked in a metal box, shoved behind the books in Yara's apartment. Because, physical paper, if you just keep it carefully in the dark, it's basically the absolute hardest thing for a digital-era bureaucracy to make disappear.
It's a brilliant analog defense against a highly resourced, networked adversary. But Ingrid's testimony does more than explain the mechanics of omission. It exposes the psychological architecture of the Foundation itself.
Right. Like, how does a massive global organization keep a secret like human erasure for 150 years without leaking?
How do you think?
Let me guess. Blackmail.
Close, but it's more systemic than that. It operates on the sociological principle of mutual knowledge.
Oh, interesting.
The clients know the Foundation has records of their crimes, and the Foundation knows the clients would destroy them if exposed. The employees are trapped by their own complicity, too. They've all processed the paperwork for a clearance at some point.
So everyone's hands are dirty.
Exactly. The entire structure survives because for every single person involved, trying to exit the system looks far more dangerous than just quietly continuing the work.
They are held together by mutually assured destruction. Until, of course, Yara, Noor, and Ingrid team up.
The dream team.
Seriously. You have the cosmic keeper of the distance, the woman holding the physical thread, and the whistleblower who knows the bureaucratic plumbing. Together, they cross-reference Saba's original 63 pages with Yara's 23 years of follow-up research.
And because Yara is an urban planner, she spent decades reading the gap-shaped decisions in city infrastructures.
Things like missing transit lines or suddenly rezoned neighborhoods, all to track the Foundation's invisible influence.
The 3 of them synthesized this data to build a comprehensive 412-page master dossier. But while they are compiling this weapon, Ingrid reaches out to a dormant contact inside the Foundation and discovers a horrifying truth.
There's an active clearance case currently in progress.
Yeah, the theoretical suddenly becomes an immediate race against the clock.
We are introduced to DeWitt McKellar, a documentary filmmaker currently making a movie called The Kept Record, which explores how official history is constructed. And DeWitt has made a fatal, accidental error.
During a routine interview with a retired Foundation administrator, the administrator slipped up. She accidentally used the phrase, the clearance service, on camera.
And DeWitt didn't even know what it meant. But, like any good journalist, he started emailing the Foundation's press office, asking for a definition.
Which completely tripped the wire.
The Foundation's isolation protocols kick in immediately. DeWitt's friends start returning his calls a little less. His professional contacts go inexplicably cold.
The Foundation is socially starving him, prepping him for the Architects of Absence. He is weeks, maybe days, away from being completely erased.
So the trio devises a plan to save him, and it operates essentially as a reverse heist.
I like that analogy.
Yeah, instead of breaking into a vault to steal a secret, they are going to smuggle the truth out into the open. They take their 412-page dossier, and they begin seeding it into small regional archives.
They target places like the Hendrickson Collection, run by an archivist named Peter Alls, and community centers like the Memory House, run by Adeza Okafor.
They deliberately target institutions that sit below the Foundation's threshold of power. Places the Foundation arrogantly assumed were too small, too localized, or too underfunded to matter.
But wait, I'm sure listeners are thinking the same thing. I have to question the tactical logic here.
What do you mean?
Well, if Dawit is in immediate danger of being erased by assassins who manipulate memory, why not just tell him to drop everything, smash his phone, and go off the grid? Why are they messing around with archival deposits when a man's life is on the line?
Oh, right.
If we connect this to the mechanics we discussed earlier, hiding him would be signing his death warrant. It plays right into the Foundation's hands.
Because the erasure technique absolutely requires the target to be isolated.
Exactly. It requires a reduced footprint in the living world's memory to gain purchase. If Dawit goes into a cabin in the woods and stops talking to people, he's doing the Foundation's prep work for them.
Oh, wow. So Noor's strategy is entirely counterintuitive. If isolation is the vulnerability, then hypervisibility is the defense.
You got it. They use Peter's archival network to rapidly secure Dawit a massive, high-profile finishing grant for his film. Practically overnight, Dawit have an editor, a composer, festival programmers calling him.
He becomes the busy, vibrant center of a whole network of active professional attention. Dozens of people are suddenly forced to hold him firmly in their active minds.
And because he is so heavily anchored in the daily reality of so many people, the erasure technique physically cannot find purchase. It bounces right off him.
While the Foundation is scrambling to understand why their supposedly foolproof technique failed, the archival seeds that the team planted begin to sprout.
But it's vital to highlight a specific, powerful moment here regarding Adeze Okafor and the Memory House.
Oh, yes.
When the trio approaches Adeze with the institutional evidence of the clearance service, she makes a non-negotiable demand before she agrees to help.
She insists that the community's lived experience must be treated as a co-source.
It's a profound argument about historiography. For 30 years, Adeze's community had maintained its own oral histories because they inherently knew the official Foundation-curated record was lying to them.
Right.
Adezes insists that the institutional documents proving the mechanism of erasure are only half the story. The human cost, the actual lives of the erased, and the generational trauma of the communities left behind, with missing pieces that must be given equal weight in the historical record.
The truth is only complete when the sterile mechanism and the messy human cost are presented together.
You can't just expose the machine. You have to mourn the people it ground up.
That demand elevates the whole mission and leads us directly to the climax. The team organizes a simultaneous decentralized disclosure. On a completely random Tuesday, the finding aids across a dozen international independent archives go open to the public.
At the exact same moment, Dawit's rapidly completed documentary, which now explicitly names Saba Moradi and features on-camera interviews with Yara, Ingrid, and Noor herself, premieres across multiple cities.
The Foundation is hit from too many asymmetric angles at once. Their mutual knowledge security structure, that massive web of complicity, totally collapses.
Corporate clients start frantically trying to legally distance themselves from the Foundation, which, ironically, only creates massive new paper trails and evidence. The institution begins to legally and socially fracture.
But the true climax of the story doesn't happen in a courtroom or a press conference. It happens in the distance.
Because the distance is a physical architecture that responds to the living world's memory.
As the independent archives go public, as Dawit's film is watched by thousands, as the names of the 12 erased people are spoken aloud and entered permanently into the historical record, the living world's memory finally massively turns back toward them.
Noor feels the physics of the space shift. Saba Moradi and the 11 others who had been desperately pressing against the void for decades finally stop pressing.
The struggle ends.
Because their records have been received and restored by the living, they transition from being improperly absent to the properly dead. They are finally, truly able to rest.
And back in the living world, on a quiet, snowy Sunday morning, Yara Nazemi stands in her kitchen. For 23 years, ever since Saba was taken, she hadn't been able to bake his bread correctly.
The effort was just too tied up in the trauma of holding his existence alone.
But on this Sunday, she shapes the dough, she bakes it, and while she knows it isn't completely perfect, it's close. And she knows that next Sunday, it will be right. The crushing burden of being the soul keeper is gone. She's no longer guarding a ghost against the void. She is simply remembering a man she loved.
It's a deeply satisfying resolution to a complex narrative. It ties the massive structural concepts back to a single human action.
It really makes you look at the real world differently. Look at the history you consume every day, the documentaries you watch, the textbooks you read. Who curates those records?
Right.
What banal, bureaucratic, structured omissions might exist right now in the stories you take for granted? Who was deemed inconvenient, too difficult, and simply left out of the archive?
I'll leave you with one final lingering thought straight from the lore of this universe. Think back to that concept of pre-echoes.
Oh,
Those sudden, inexplicable fears you sometimes have. Or a strange, deep inclination toward a specific piece of music you've never actually heard before. We usually brush those off as quirks of our personality or random brain static.
yeah.
But what if they aren't? What if they are the faint structural resonance of someone in your own community who was deliberately erased from history, just waiting for someone to finally say their name?
Imagine being the one person holding that thread, keeping the shortcut, pinging against the dark, refusing to let the distance win. So what does this all mean for how we remember? That's for you to figure out. Until next time, keep diving deep.